So first of all, just want to thank you so much for talking to us. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about your daughter's story and your situation when you found out that she was diagnosed with D.R.E.S.S syndrome? You know, how did we lead up to that diagnosis?
So when it happened to Hannah, nobody really knew what was going on, and they were treating the symptoms. And that's kind of what led me on the journey to find out what just happened, because those answers really weren't available. The only help that I could find was months in, and actually it was my husband at the time found Dr. DeCamps in France, and we were able to get some information about treatment and get an idea what we were dealing with, but no one where we were knew anything about D.R.E.S.S. So they were treating symptoms, and that can be dangerous because with certain drugs, you can die very quickly.
So when she started to take, what drug did she start to take that led up to having her being treated?
Okay, great question. So she was just a study bug. She was studying, she was in 11th grade studying, getting ready to go to college, and she, looked in the mirror. She liked a boy. She saw some pimples on her forehead. It wasn't even a lot. So she decided to get a facial. And when she went for this facial, the doctor offered her minocycline instead, said that it worked very well for what she had. And even though she said, I'm not going to take this, it'll probably just dry me out. And even though we went over all the issues with Accutane and things we knew about with other drugs that they give, we had no idea we had no idea that we would learn what we know now about D.R.E.S.S syndrome, about how many drugs can cause it, about how fatal it can be, and also how it's a runaway train, that if you do get it, even if you stop the offending drug, you still can go on for decades, suffering all kinds of autoimmune issues. And it became clear to me that we need to stop it altogether, that it had to be prevented. And that sent me on 8 years journey to look at whether they were teaching about it, who knew about it, where are we missing it, what's causing it. But Hannah was only the third published case ever. Wow. So, I think Izzy, which is my co-founder of D.R.E.S.S syndrome, Tasha Tolliver, incredible woman, who came later after Izzy had passed. She found my website. We became close and have been working together, and she's been doing incredible things to help. We have a 10-series podcast going. We just started our own D.R.E.S.S syndrome foundation, and we've applied for Chan Zuckerberg's initiative for it's actually Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. I wrote it down to help me. It's Rare as One Network. And basically that means that if there's only one person that has a rare disease, that's a lot, especially for somebody like me who lost a daughter, and for Tasha who lost a daughter, and the other people that have passed. But we've applied for this, and we have partnered with Dr. Phillips at Vanderbilt University. We're making leaps and bounds. We couldn't be more excited to actually offer people some help. When Hannah got it, I was just interested in finding out what happened, and I thought everybody was going to get hurt by this. I thought hundreds of thousands of children were going to take this medicine and nobody knew, and I wasn't entirely wrong. I think the public is completely uninformed about D.R.E.S.S syndrome. They're much more worried about the superbug or other things, but there's about 50 to 200 drugs that can cause a viral reaction in people. It's kind of roulette, and no one knows who it will be. And for some, the attack is so severe, it's actually the healthiest people with strong immune systems. The viral reactivation, which is different than an allergic reaction, can reap havoc on a person's system unlike anything you've ever seen. And I'm doing this because once I saw what it was, there was no other choice to do anything else. I wouldn't have needed to do this for something, else. But there was nothing. It was nothing at the time.
When I talked to Kurt about Hannah and about you reaching out to him, he told me that something that really shook him to his core was that you sort of was in his mother's position, where you almost basically watched your daughter deteriorate in front of your eyes. Can you kind of take us through just what were the first symptoms, what led up to her death?
Well, honestly, people would, one of the most common responses I get to my book is just how easy it is to read, how fast they read it, but how absolutely unbelievably painful it is to read.
Mm-hmm.
That's because, honestly, my daughter was considered one of the sickest people to ever be at Cedars-Sinai, all from an antibiotic. She had 2 open heart surgeries in the first 2 weeks. They put in a BiVAD. Her heart completely failed. She lost her legs. She had fasciotomies down both her legs. She lost her colon, her pancreas. She lost her lungs. She was on multiple organ failure most of the time, and yet with us. We had no idea that the drug had infiltrated every part of her, and she was mutilated. And not only did we, not only was, it's very difficult, but not only did I walk and sit with her and was happy to do that, and would do it again for her, or any member of my family, or anyone really, because of how much is required to transcend what you're looking at. It's horrible what happens. It affects everything. So systemically, it's a shutdown. And because her heart failed, and then they brought her back. So Hannah was on her last doctor appointment. They were treating the rash, and we thought she was going to be okay. And they lowered the prednisone, and her heart failed right on the doctor's table. And that was the first time she passed. She passed for about 48 minutes. In the hospital next door, they came and told us that she had passed. But then they got a heartbeat. They put an Impella in her. They flew her to Cedars-Sinai in the helicopter, but she did not live. And she arrived at Cedars not alive. But the doctors came out and said, she's so young, we'll try. And they got her on ECMO, but her legs were lost. And then the heart went. And so we had her 102 days. We actually got the heart back. We got the BiVAD in. We thought we were just going to get a heart transplant and we were going to get through this. And then step by step, you realize it's got you everywhere and there's no return. And so for Hannah, because there was no knowledge and because it went so far before any guidance was there, and there was no treatment, and there was no, they were just treating symptoms, and everybody was in the dark, and everybody was worried about whatever it was. There was about 30 doctors and so many young people that looked at this and walked with this, and it affected everybody. It changed everybody's life that saw what Hannah went through. And when you can't imagine that level of suffering and destruction to a young girl's body that never took another medicine at 16, all from an antibiotic. And so I wasn't the mother yelling, the sky is falling, but I didn't know what just killed my daughter. And I have done nothing else for the last 8 years but this. I wrote the book. I wrote a documentary. I've been collecting people around the world. We have 3,000 that interact, but we have about 200 cases and all their family members. And every day they help each other. Every day they give each other state-of-the-art information that they're learning from their doctors. They connect each other. It's probably one of the most beautiful things I could ever witness about humanity, helping each other. And I don't want to say it's ugly, but it's the most difficult thing for a person to transcend this. It changes your inside, your outside, your brain, everything. It's completely systemic. And when Kirk called and reached out, he was the nicest young man and the most polite young man. To know that he was so polite and so kind amidst going through this, and so worried about his mother, and so worried about the pain he was causing her, and so much wanting to give her reassurance. Mm-hmm. And all along the way, it was hard for me to give reassurance, because I'm finding out these answers as they are, because Hannah never made it past the experience I had in the hospital. So I'm learning from them, they're learning from us, but we're really making gains. There's already 4 genes identified, and those genes now, there can be tests where people can take it ahead of time, find out if they have the gene. If they do, they won't take that particular drug, and we won't have a runaway train. And I couldn't be more hopeful now that all this will come together, whether we get the grant or not. We're in motion with the podcast already. We've already interviewed Dr. DeCamps. We've got Dr. Presti. We have doctors from Japan. We have doctors from Germany, experts all around the world. Dr. Phillips is head of medicine at Vanderbilt. And she's pioneering this in such an incredible way. So I thank you so much for letting me share, and I thank you so much for caring about Kurt, because he's a tremendous human, and he's in a battle that there aren't a lot of answers.
I know that he's currently in a battle right now. He tells me that he still has issues waking up every day and not recognizing himself and not seeing himself in the mirror. Physically, he says that he's doing okay, but like you mentioned, this battle is kind of ongoing. Is there something for anyone else who may be going through this that you might want to share with us?
The most important thing is that the more that we take medicines, and people are taking more and more medicines, we really have to be that healthy skeptic. Take that time, go to the FDA, put in the drug, just make sure there's some new information that's maybe being communicated that you can, learn from. There's, sometimes it can happen without you knowing, but always reach out, get information, question your doctors. Don't take something just because it's the easy way, because your life can change so instantly. And it isn't what medicine was meant to do. And we are really at risk these days with not just taking too many antibiotics with the superbug, but also having these adverse reactions, not allergic reactions, but adverse reactions that can actually take 21 days to even show you that they're there. And by the time you know that you're having this, it's infiltrated and already made its way. So be careful. Don't take anything unless you need it. And take care of yourself. It's so much more important to do that. But for the people who have D.R.E.S.S now, we have the most to offer them that we've ever had, the most hope, the most care, the most information, and a supportive family. It's more than I could ever wish for. And for Greg, there's hope as well, that once they identify these things, we can keep him from getting re-triggered, because the hard part is, while he's trying to make peace with how he looks and how he feels, and this like Mack truck hitting his life, he still has to be careful for every other thing that he takes. And if he is to have another reaction, it could be other things. So there's just nothing wonderful about D.R.E.S.S. There's nothing wonderful except the wonderful people who are fighting and trying to bring awareness. And I'm really grateful that Chan Zuckerberg is giving people like us, a small group that has a small group of people that really matter, a chance to inform even more, educate even more, and get help for us, because he needs support. There should be support, and there's nothing for him. He probably can't even get a doctor to agree with him half the time, or even understand. And Well,
Nancy, thank you so much for speaking with us and sharing the story about Hannah. I'm so sorry for your loss, and I'm thankful that you are helping other people like Kurt, because again, he is also a friend of mine, and helping other people who are dealing with this syndrome that still remains a mystery to a lot of us.
It does, but be looking for us. We're making progress, and be hopeful. I've never been able to say that before. It took 8 years to say that with confidence and not feel like I wasn't telling the truth.
All right, Nancy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay.